Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Zenaton and welcome to today's video for Legends of Runeterra. Today we're going to be talking about a deck that's fun, but not necessarily strong in the meta, but it's still, in my opinion, viable for the meta. Specifically, we're going to be talking about Vladimir Braum, Scargrounds, Crimson, Self-Damage, Mid-Range, whatever you want to call the deck. Very fun deck, probably one of the few mid-range decks that I actually enjoy playing. But enough rambling about the deck. Let's go and take a look at it really quick. Okay, welcome to the deck. Now, I'm showing a more unconventional list than the standard Vladimir Braum list with a lot of cards that are not normally played in the list or were played and are not played anymore, and cards that have not really seen too much play before but are in this list that I am showing today. I have a lot of reasons for the card selections I have in this deck. But before we go over the deck itself, and specifically the individual cards, let's talk about the overall deck. Braum, Vlad, Scargrounds, whatever, is a synergistic mid-range deck that wants to harm its own units to get certain payoffs, such as Vladimir himself and Braum, of course. The big one is activating Scargrounds. The Crimson units themselves have some pretty good synergies as well. And then we win with either a big board thanks to Scargrounds, a big Scar Mother Vrina, maybe a leveled up Vlad, etc., etc. As for decks we want to see and what we don't want to see, the one deck we don't want to run into the most, I'd say, is probably Ezreal Draven. Ezreal Draven has things like Ravenous Flock, Noxian Guillotine, and Scorched Earth, so they can remove our damaged units. They don't even have to do the work themselves. We already did the work of damaging our own units for them. Them being able to remove Scargrounds is pretty big itself as well if they play Scorched Earth. I'd say that is probably our worst matchup out of all the common decks. But we also like to see some of the other common decks, such as Trundle Lissandra, and to a lesser extent, I'd say we even like to see Zoe Lee and Nasus Thresh. Thanks to the self-damage mechanics, we can do a lot of damage really quickly, and for decks like Trundle Lissandra, they have a hard time just stopping that. We kind of blank a lot of their removals, such as Avalanche and Withering Whale and Blighted Ravine, thanks to Scargrounds giving our units tough, and it kind of helps us as well because it gives us some of the self-damage payoff. So why is this deck not more popular if it's really good against a couple of the top-tier meta decks? Consistency. Consistency is the number one reason. This deck, similar to Tom Soraka, is very, very dependent on its landmarks, in this case, Scargrounds. If this deck doesn't draw Scargrounds, sure, it can still win games because it's still a very synergistic deck, but it needs that big payoff from Scargrounds. Not being able to get tough, not growing your units without your Scargrounds is such a big hurdle for this deck to overcome. And in my opinion, that's the main reason we don't see this deck more often than not. Plus, again, like I said, Ezreal Draven is a tough matchup and it's popular. And to a lesser extent, Ravenous Flock is a good card, and pretty much almost every Noxus deck plays that card. We don't play it because we can't fit it in the deck, in all honesty. Anyway, though, let's go and look at the individual cards now that we've talked about the deck itself. First up, Crimson Bloodletter, the newest of the Crimson units. This card is one of the main reasons why this deck has gotten a little bit better from the past seasons, compared to the past seasons. The Bloodletter is just really good. Recently, there was a bug where if this damaged Braum, it would also damage the Poro that popped out, and it would become a 3/4. That was a bug. It's now fixed. It's still really good. It activates self-damage synergies, so it helps activate the Crimson units. It activates Braum still, and then it becomes a 1-mana 2/3, which is pretty good. Sure, it's not a 1-mana 2/3 on turn 1, but it will be a 1-mana 2/3 as early as turn 2 for the deck, which is a fairly good defensive unit if you need it if you're against aggro. Going back as well, before we continue, because I forgot to mention one more thing. The deck, another thing this deck likes to run into are aggro decks. We have so much healing and so much damage, such as AoE damage, thanks to things like Ice Shards and Ember Maiden. we crush aggro, whether it is discard aggro, spiders, burn, Azir Lucian to a lesser extent. Deck's great. Next card up, Crimson Disciple. The card's not amazing ever since it's been nerfed. If you don't know what it used to be, Crimson Disciple used to do 2 damage to enemy nexus instead of 1, but it was a little too strong in burn decks, so it got nerfed to what it is currently now. But we still play it mostly because we need something to do on 2, because we are a mid-range deck, and skipping turn 2 is not a thing we would like to do because we're a mid-range deck. And it has some Crimson synergy too, so it's nice, some self-damage synergy, because while it gets tough and will take 0 damage from pings, it will still trigger its ability because it is still taking the damage, even if that damage is 0 and surviving damage. So it gives you a little bit of reach, but this card is, in my opinion, one of the weaker cards of the deck. Next up, 3 Death Lotuses. You can cut these. I know some people cut these for transfusions. I just really like them because it's really good against things like Lucian decks. It's really good against decks that play like just a lot of X1s in general. Think like Nasus Thresh with all the saplings and the Blighted Caretaker, I believe. I believe that's the name of the 3-mana 2/1. Just a really nice card. Also helps you kill Zoe really early as well. Just a lovely card. But I could see, honestly, if you want to, you could cut like 1 or 2 for a couple of transfusions if you really want to play transfusion. But the next card we have is one of the reasons we don't have to really play transfusion. We have Troll Chant. Troll Chant is probably one of the best cards in Freljord. If not one of the, I believe it might even be the most played Freljord card right now. The card's just nuts. Lets you win combats really well. It's so efficient for how cheap it is. Play the card, really. Like any deck outside of like weird combo or control decks will play 3 Troll Chants if they're in Freljord, I believe. I guess maybe very aggressive aggro decks won't play Troll Chant, but there's not that many, I think, in Freljord, now that I think about it. And even some combo and control decks like Troll Chant anyway, because it's just that good. Next card. This is a nice card. Crimson Curator. 3-mana 3/3, survive damage, create a random Crimson unit in hand. Sure, it's RNG and stuff, and you can't really control what you get, but a little bit of extra value. All the Crimsons are decent because they all have synergy with self-damage stuff. It's pretty nice. Plus, when it gets tough from Scargrounds, it's similar to the Crimson Disciple. It'll still take the damage, even though it'll be taking 0 from pings, and you'll get more and more cards. Sure, again, like I said, the cards aren't amazing, but it helps you out anyway. Next card up. This is a card that's been getting cut from the deck. We have Ember Maiden. 3-mana 3/2, round start, deal 1 to everything. A lot of people have been cutting this card ever since the latest set came out, because the latest set brought the next card we're going to talk about, Ice Shards. A lot of people were like, well, Ice Shards is very similar to Ember Maiden. They both cost 3. They both ping everything on the board. So let's cut Ember Maiden. I have tried it as well. I don't like it as much cutting the Ice Shards. I just like Ember Maiden. Because in my opinion, in card games, you want to do something unfair. Ember Maiden Scargrounds is pretty unfair. Sure, Ember Maiden pings herself before she gets the tough activation from Scargrounds, but once that has happened and you've gotten a tough act or a tough trigger on her, she will not be removed from the board unless your opponent is the one doing it. Or I guess you kill her in combat for some reason. And that means she will be spending every single round at the start, pinging the entire board, including your Nexus. So be careful of that. You don't want to die to your own Ember Maiden. But this activates Scarground synergies, Crimson synergies. And thanks to Troll Chant, it's not that difficult to keep her alive. Really love the card. Next up, Ice Shards. Talked about this a little. Just really, really solid card. It's pretty much Death Lotus, but you don't have to have combat start. Or it hits things outside of combat, in other words. Plus, it hits Nexus, and we have some cards in here that care about hitting Nexus. I guess it's also nice for a little bit of reach. I have definitely used Ice Shards to kill my opponents who have been at 1 health. Very sweet card. Next up, Tavern Keeper. I don't think there's too much to talk about with this guy. Just a very solid card in general. 3-mana 3/3, already decent stats for the cost. Healing 3 to anything helps you out if you're against an aggro deck to give you some more Nexus health. Helps you out against more mid-rangey or control decks by healing up your units back to full health. in case you're playing against something that plays like a Ravenous Flock or whatever, or just removal in general, so you can heal this before their Mystic Shots or whatever come out. Just a solid card. Lovely card. Next up, we got Noxian Guillotine. We got 2 of them in the deck. I'm not running Scorched Earth at the moment. This card can flip between Scorched Earth as well, and Noxian Guillotine, depending on the meta you see. No Scorched Earth in the current list because, well, there's not that many decks that play landmarks that you really want to kill too much. Sure, there is Lysandra Trundle. They have some landmarks, but you don't care too much about killing their landmarks. Like, their Blighted Ravines will just accelerate your game plan. And, well, the Frozen Thralls from Lysandra, you don't really care about those too much because that's not really part of their game plan. So we play Noxian Guillotine because it can be a very wide board clear thanks to all the self-damage and AoE pings we have thanks to things like Ember Maiden and Ice Shards. And then next up, we got Scargrounds. I don't think I need to talk about this too much. This is the whole reason this deck can even really exist, in my opinion. I feel like you should hard mulligan for this in every single matchup. There is not a single matchup where you throw this back, unless you have multiple in your hand. If you have 2 Scargrounds in your hand, sure, you'll mulligan one away, but you need, or at least you really want to find at least one of these in your opener, or at least by turn 3. So, crazy card. Lets you win games. Pretty nutty with some cards, especially like Braum. Giving Braum attack is kind of nuts. We have 1 Blighted Ravine here. Mostly here as just a little extra healing and some more self-damage. The AoE as well is kind of nice, but we don't really need it that much because we have other cards to do some AoE damage as well. Ember Maiden and Ice Shards. And we don't really get swarmed that hard thanks to, again, Ember Maiden and Ice Shard. But still, it's really good. It helps clear the board. It helps activate some self-damage synergies, so we play 1. Next up, the first champion, it's Braum. Lovely guy, Braum. This deck actually can kind of level up Braum sometimes, thanks to all the self-damage we're doing. That and, well, the Poro is really nice. And of course, if you have, like I said earlier, you have Scargrounds out and you have Braum on the field, Braum will just keep growing and growing and growing, and he himself might become a win con, and your opponent might have to use hard removal on Braum, which is always a bad feeling. Lovely guy, Braum. Next up, the first card, well, not the first card, but a card that I know a lot of people haven't played in their list. We have Ursine Spirit Walker. 5 mana, 4/6. Let's look at the card real quick because I know a lot of people don't even know what this card is. 5 mana, 4/6, Plunder, transform into Stormclaw Ursine. Stormclaw Ursine is a 5 mana, 6/6 with Overwhelm. That says other allies have, with 5+ power, have Overwhelm. A lot of people like to play Tarkaz as their 5-drop of choice. The 5/8, I believe, troll who, when he attacks, he deals 1 to all other battling units. Kind of Death Lotus on attack, in other words. I know why people play him. Sure, he activates some Scarground and self-damage synergies as well, but I like Ursine Spirit Walker for a number of reasons. 1, we have cards like Ember Maiden and Ice Shard, so it's not that hard to activate the Plunder. And number 2 is, in my opinion, Ursine Spirit Walker is faster than Tarkaz. Tarkaz will just get chumped over and over and over, and you will find yourself getting stalled out by chump blocks a lot of the time. And then your opponent will eventually start to take control of the board if they're a more controlling deck, or if they're an aggro deck, they might find some burn or an elusive or whatever they will use as their late game finisher. Ursine Spirit Walker gives all of those units that you've been playing Overwhelm. A lot of the time I've noticed in this deck is you will have all these units that have been pinged a lot and been given tough, and they're getting more and more attack, but they are just getting chump blocked over and over and over. You're just sitting there trying to get a little bit of damage through, and eventually, like I said, they'll find something that lets them come back. You drop an Ursine Spirit Walker, suddenly that entire board you had that was getting bigger and bigger and bigger and having tough and all that stuff, that was getting chump blocked, can no longer be chump blocked. And now your opponent actually has to do something. And whether that is hushing the Spirit Walker to delay it for a turn or using premium removal like a Vengeance, whatever. But the fact is, compared to Tarkaz, you are forcing your opponent to have some kind of answer that turn right then and there, if you have the attack token, of course. So that's why I like him. I just was rambling for a long time about that. I really like the guy. Some people like to play, besides Tarkov's, other late game cards like, I believe, Basilisk Bloodseeker, which in my opinion is just a little too expensive at 7 mana and a little too win Mori for me. We also have the other late game choice of Vrina here we'll talk about a little bit later, but more people like to play, some people like to play more Vrinas than Spirit Walkers. It's personal preference. We have the next champ up here. We have Vladimir. I mean, Vladimir's just great. He's a little bit extra healing. He helps activate some more self-damage stuff. When he levels up, he gets regeneration, so that's pretty nice. And I'd say the nicest thing about Vladimir is his champion spell. He lets you play Transfusion without having to put Transfusion in the deck, so you can have more room in the deck for other cards, like the Ember Maidens that I like. And then we got Vrina. Vrina is just nuts. She has such high health. She's going to take a lot of damage and a lot of pain. She's going to grow so big, and she's going to kill your opponent because she herself has Overwhelm, and before damage goes through, you might even use some things like Ice Shards, Death Lotuses, etc., to get a few more pings on her to increase her damage. Because the damage will stack up quickly thanks to Vrina herself, the Scargrounds, and say like a Vlad or something. Now, of course, some people like to use this only over Spirit Walker, but I like Spirit Walker because he kind of turns everyone else into a Vrina, kind of. Some people I've noticed like to play, I believe it's called Alpha Wildclaw, the 7/6 with Overwhelm, and their reasoning is it's faster than Vrina. It doesn't take as long to get bigger. And I kind of agree with that, but I just like Vrina more. Just a lot more explosive and can just really hurt your opponent faster, in my opinion. Sure, she takes a little bit longer to get going compared to Wildclaw, but thanks to that whole like survive damage, get +3/+0, she can get bigger than the Wildclaw much faster. Anyway, though, with that all said and done, that's pretty much all of the cards in the deck. Very customizable deck. There's a lot of options for the deck to play. Things like Ravenous Flock, Tarkaz, Bloodseeker, Basilisk Bloodseekers, Transfusions. I like this list the most. It's what I play myself personally. Anyway, though, let's get into a couple of games so I can show you how this deck works. Okay, welcome to our first game. I talked about Nasus Thresh. I never talked about Nasus Kindred, because in all honesty, you don't see this deck too much compared to the version with Thresh. Because in my opinion, this list is worse than the version with Thresh. Anyway, though, as for mulligans, honestly, this is pretty much an amazing start. I'm going to keep it all. What you want to look for are Bloodletters early on is really nice. Scargrounds, of course, as well. And then as for the rest of the hand, Death Lotus is fine if you're playing against something with a lot of pings or a lot of X ones like my opponent is. And then something else just nice, like the fourth card just is mostly just a nice card, whatever you want there. Ember Maiden, a thick Crimson Boy here in the form of Curator. Kindly Tavern Keeper if you're against aggro, just whatever. Another ping is nice. Everything's good. But yes, this is a great hand. I'm going to pass here. Now, as for this next coming turn, it is really nice to get Scargrounds up. I'm actually going to skip developing the board so I can develop my Scargrounds, developing units on the board, because I just top decked this Braum. Sure, the bug is no longer a thing where Bloodletter pings both Braum and his Mighty Poro, but it's still nice to ping Braum, especially after we develop Scargrounds, so we can start killing some of this stuff. I will admit, I'm a little worried about an on-curve Kindred. I don't know how I'm going to kill an on-curve Kindred. I hope my opponent's not playing, like, Crumble? I think that's the card's name? Alright, sure. Okay, Braum. Please start taking over the game now. This bug is still here. This, like, little visual bug, too, sadly. Glimpse. Okay, that's fine. I can't do anything about it anyway. So, What do we got here? As for this next upcoming turn, do I want to open attack? Maybe. No. I will summon Curator. I will have what? Let me think here. Oh, I will especially summon Curator now. Curator, I have what, 7 mana? So I will have Curator, Death Lotus, and Troll Chant all up next turn in case they summon Kindred. I think this is great for me. Summon Curator. Ooh, what is this? Okay. My opponent is drawing a lot now. I don't know what they're looking for. So I believe they've gotten, what, 2 Slay triggers so far? So their Nasus is not big. Nasus is a little tough to deal with on curve, but whatever. So yeah, just Curator. And then depending on what they do here, attacking with everything, including Braum, of course.
What good comes of mortal greed?
It's a little annoying, but I'm still going to attack in with everything. I've got both Troll Chants and Death Lotuses here, depending on how they do blocks. If for some reason they don't block at all, that's nuts. But yes, as you can see here, we're starting to get our Scarground synergy going now with this first Death Lotus upcoming. And we're starting to run into the problem of, wow, my opponent really didn't block with Sand Spinner. That's definitely interesting. I will Death Lotus here. Death Lotus gets me a lot of damage because they didn't do a block. And plus I get 1 card from the Curator. And I give my units tough too. That's really nice. But yeah, as you can see now, we're starting to run into that problem of, we kind of are starting to get stonewalled a bit. This is a pretty decent one to draw though. Like Crimson Aristocrat with Braum is really nice. I'm not going to use it. Sure, whatever. I could save that really in all honesty, but I have a second one. I don't care. But yeah, I'm going to bank this mana here. Ooh, Ember Maiden. Maybe. I think I might just win now. Yeah, I'm going to play Ember Maiden this turn, depending on what they do. But yeah, I just won. See, that it's like that. Just so fast. Like, sure. Kindred, whatever. Look how fast I've just destroyed them. Like, I've done so much damage. Doomkeeper, whatever. They have no mana up. I guess they could technically play...
Disintegrate.
I mean, I'll just block with Braum. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I don't really know how my opponent's gonna stop me here. I guess maybe Vengeance? But then that's all their mana. I might be able to squeeze in enough damage somehow anyway. So let's just attack like this. I want to kill Kindred.
Snow swallows their tears.
Good luck, opponent. I've got a lot of ways to force through more damage with Death Lotus, Ice Shard, and Troll Chant. So that should be lethal. Yeah, that's still lethal. Even if they can somehow survive this turn, I still have a huge board compared to their, well, no board. I feel like they need to somehow survive this turn. Well, they're just giving up, it seems. Never mind. I was going to say, they need to somehow survive this turn and then Ruination me, but then I still have cards in hand. So that's the deck, basically.
Victory is friends we made along the way.
Okay, we're going to get a second game in. That first game was pretty fast. As for this deck, some kind of dragon deck, Targon, Demacia, whatever. This deck can be a little bit tough. We might run into our main problem, by the way, of our deck losing to itself by not drawing Scargrounds. That doesn't look good. We didn't draw Scargrounds. But yeah, this deck might be a little tough. I don't know why they're emoting at me. I'm not even going to play this now. And the reason why this deck might be a little tough is because sometimes they have Solari Priestess, and Solari Priestess can get Comet, and that can remove our Scargrounds. I don't know why you're blocking. They're playing into Avalanche. Whatever, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I have a feeling I'm going to lose this game because reason one,
The skies darken with their approach.
that's a little annoying, but also number two is I don't have a Scargrounds. I'm going to play this Crimson Disciple anyway. So this is going to be a little awkward. Do I play Ice Shards now? I will. I will play Ice Shards now. I don't want them to play a turn 3 Shyvana. They could do, I guess, like a single combat or a sharp sight here and do something cute. But yeah, this is a tough matchup. And any matchup that, whether it's good or bad, is tougher if we don't draw... okay, I'll still attack into this. All of these matchups that are good or bad, they all get much tougher if we don't draw Scargrounds. Now, I am getting some good damage in. I feel like it's going to come down to, do they have... That's not even good. I mean, that's an okay draw. Oh, that's not good. That is not good. That's also not good. So I could just guillotine this now, but I honestly don't think I can win from here. The fact that they killed the X2 instead of the X1 really hurts. Yeah, I can't win from here. Welcome to basically this deck's weakness. We have not drawn enough units, aka we didn't draw our champions and we didn't draw Scargrounds. And this right here is why I think the deck needs more help. It needs more consistency, in other words.
The summit's final trial.
Also, not being able to kill this Herald really hurt. But yeah, I'll play it out. I'll try.
Fire knows its own.
Like, I'll play this. This sets up a nice guillotine, and it kills the Herald, I guess. I'm in a little bit of trouble if they can, if this is single combat, I'm really screwed. Oh, yeah. I think I'm just going to concede here, in all honesty. I guess I'll play it out, but I really don't know how I'm coming back from this. I was going to say I'm really screwed if they have Jarvan, but whatever. But yeah, I don't know how I come back from this. No Scargrounds. I don't have a board. I got the Scargrounds now, but it's just a little bit too late. Like, they have such a big board. I'm out of units, too. Doesn't help. So I don't really see how I'm coming back from this. I don't even know what I draw here. If they didn't have the, if they didn't have that single combat, I might have been in a better spot. Same with that sharp sight, because I could have killed Herald and slowed this, like, all of these dragons coming down, but yeah. So they have, what, 7 mana next turn? Does this discount even really matter too much? I don't think so. Yeah, we're running, again, like I said, the deck is losing to itself. We drew what? I think we drew 2 units? No, we drew 3 units this game. Bloodletter, Disciple, and Ember Maiden. And now we're out of units. Like, sure, I can do this. And this sets up a guillotine or something, but it's not enough. I'm playing control, and I'm a mid-range deck. I want to be the one who is beating them down. All right, yeah, that's enough. I guess I'll give it one more turn, but I can't come back from this. Good game, opponent. You basically were gifted a win through the variance gods. 2 Scargrounds, no units. Very sad. Kill me. Oh, and they had Jarvan. Okay, yeah. Don't you shed about me. How dare you. Anyway, though, yeah. Welcome to the deck losing to itself. Sad. Okay, welcome back to the deck screen. I feel like those 2 games were really good, though, for demonstrating the deck itself. Game 1, we got to see exactly how the deck likes to play, getting the early Scargrounds, and just kind of putting on a lot of pressure while getting Scarground triggers off and getting a nice win. Game 2, we got to see why this deck is in a top-tier meta deck. At least one of the reasons why it's not a top-tier meta deck, and that is just that sometimes it doesn't get a good draw or even a decent draw. Like, we drew, what, 3 units until, what, turn 7? I think it was on turn 7 when we drew our 4th unit. That's unlikely, in all honesty, but it's not that uncommon. And plus, we never drew our Scargrounds until, I think, turn 5 or 6, so that's another big one. So, again, like I said, the deck sometimes will just lose to itself. If we had had that Curator that I drew at the very end of the game a little bit earlier, Sure, we might have been able to do something. This curator could have given me more units to fight for the board. But I was already saying how that was a tough matchup anyway, even if we had gotten a good draw. But to have even had a chance, we really needed to have that early Scargrounds. And we really needed our opponent to not have the sharp sight saving their Herald of Dragons. Anyway, though, that is the deck. I hope you all enjoyed it. It's a very fun deck, though. If you're looking for something still a little bit competitive, but also fun, this is a good deck for you. I have played this deck in Masters a little bit myself, and it puts up some decent numbers, gets some wins every now and again. But if you're looking for a deck just to climb with and only climb with, and you don't care what you're playing, this is definitely not the deck. It's, again, like I said, its biggest issue is consistency, and it does run into a couple of matches where it does struggle a little bit, but it's still fun, and I believe if you were good at the deck and you just sat down and put in the time, you could easily get to Masters with this deck. Anyway, though, that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you guys did enjoy it, please be sure to leave a like or a comment down below, and if you guys want to keep up with the Runeterra content, you can always go and subscribe to the channel, of course. It really helps me out and all that. If you have any suggestions on how to change the deck, make it better, or just stuff you like in your versions of Vladimir Braum yourself, I would love to hear it as well. And if you want to catch me playing some Legends of Runeterra, you can always go and check me out on my Twitch TV channel over at twitch.tv/Zenaton. I stream there pretty much every single day. Anyway, though, with that all said and done, thank you all again once more for watching this video. And until I see you guys in the next one, bye.